the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brooks Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brooks Show on this Wednesday, early afternoon here on the East Coast. Well, I'm in Puerto Rico, but hope everybody's having a fantastic week. Looking forward to the rest of the week. We are going to do a news roundup today, and as we do every weekday. And we're going to start with this new concept that I didn't know existed called a non-man. And I have to say, I encountered this for the first time on Twitter a couple of days ago. Maybe it was yesterday. Maybe it was a couple of days ago. June 12th. So 2 days ago. Saw some tweets about this, and I dismissed it because I figured this can't be right. So this is too crazy. This is I don't know. And I noticed that J.K. Rowling had tweeted this, and it tweeted about this, and I was like, no, she must be caught up in something that's just crazy and untrue. And there was no link. There was just a screenshot of something. So I just dismissed it and moved on. But then today, I found the actual story on the website of Johns Hopkins University, where this is supposed to be taken from. It is now being taken down, and a disclaimer is being put instead. But this is what appeared 2 days ago. All right, this is the LGBTQ glossary. LGBTQ glossary. And the first item that appears is lesbian, in parentheses, social orientation. I can't even do it, right? And this is the explanation for lesbian. A non-man attracted to non-men. And it says, while past definitions refer to lesbian as a woman who is emotionally, romantically, and or sexually attracted to other women, this updated definition includes non-binary people who may also identify with the label. So you're a non-man lesbian. Okay. But then, okay, so I see it, non-binary, you want to be inclusive, you want to make sure you cover everybody. It's not, so I guess you want to include under lesbian, trans, but okay, I get that. But then why is it that the next item is gay man? And gay man is not defined as a non-woman. It's defined as a man who is emotionally, romantically, sexually, affectionately, or relationally attracted to other men, or who identifies as a member of a gay community. That's a little weird. At times, gay is used to refer to all people, regardless of gender, who have their primary sexual or romantic attraction to people of the same gender. Gay is an adjective, not a noun. He is a gay man. Why is man treated differently than woman, who you can't even say the word, I guess? Can't even utter it. This is insane. A non-man attracted to non-men. I mean, this is why at the very end of the day, I talked about this on the show yesterday. I can't take woke seriously. Because, 99% of Americans look at this and say, this is stupid. Right? So a couple of tweets, one by Riel Scaracella. She says, why is a lesbian a non-man but a gay person isn't a non-woman? Progressive misogyny, she says. And then J.K. Rowling tweets, she says, man, no definition needed. It's obvious what a man is. Non-man, formerly known as woman, a being definable only by reference to the male. An absence, a vacuum where there's no maleness. You got to admire J.K. Rowling. Not only does she have the courage, but she's a good writer. And that's exactly right. What? Women are gone. Men, non-men. That's how it's divided. Talk about, and I like this, non-man, a being definable only by reference to the male, an absence, a vacuum where there's no manness. And and of course, what it's referring to is what was formerly known as women's. So anyway, that was on Twitter yesterday. Johns Hopkins has pulled that definition from its website. If you go to the glossary, the LGBT glossary now is empty, with a statement from Johns Hopkins where it says it strives to create a campus culture that is inclusive and welcoming for all gender identities, sexual orientations, experiences, and viewpoints. And we're committed to ensuring the glossary serves the introduction to a range of identities and terms that are used in the LGBT community, not intended to serve as the definitive answer of how all people understand and use the terms. And then they said the definitions were not reviewed or approved by ODI. I'm not sure what ODI stands for. ODI, some entity within Johns Hopkins. The definitions were not reviewed or approved by ODI leadership, and the language in question has been removed pending review. I wonder if after they do a review, we will get the word woman back in the LGBTQ glossary, or if it's now established fact that under LGBTQ ideology, there is no such thing as a woman. All there is non-men. Men in the absence of men. I mean, what do you even do? I mean, the alternative is this or Christianity. You get the sense that that's it? Oh, I got to give kudos to the writer of the essay that I critiqued yesterday over the woke or Christianity, and I encourage those of you who haven't watched that episode to watch it. I think I make some good points there, and I think it's interesting. The author whose name is Evan Riggs, actually tweeted, to his credit, tweeted my discussion of his, of my discussion of his essay. He tweets, "We definitely disagree on a lot, but I'm honored to have my argument taken seriously by the head of the Ayn Rand Institute." And he links to my thing. So kudos to Riggs. I've actually suggested that maybe next time I'm in London, we could do a debate on it. And then he also tweeted, "Thank you for taking my argument seriously, unlike many people who have disagreed so far." So yeah, it would be actually pretty cool if we could actually have a debate over this. All right, let's see. So yeah, that was yesterday's show. Encourage you all, those of you who haven't listened to it yet, to go listen to it. All right, that was non-men. There have been accusations around the Bidens and about Ukraine and being bribed and the board membership that Hunter Biden received in Ukraine, where he clearly is not qualified. There's also an issue with China, but there's clearly, with regard to Ukraine, this idea that the Bidens were bribed, explicitly bribed. There's talk of a $5 million bribe for the U.S. basically to put to good pressure on the Ukrainian government not to investigate corruption, and in exchange, not just they get the $5 million, but they also got Hunter Biden on the board of this Ukrainian company. Yesterday, I guess it was, Senator Grassley went on the Senate floor and basically said that he has seen evidence in an FBI statement of that there is reason to believe, or the FBI has information, not verified, not conclusive, but information, that one of the executives at Burisma, it's not identified who, but they think it's the founder, has actually audio tapes of his dealings with the Bidens, and on those audio tapes he claims, or Grassley at least claims, there's clear evidence that the Bidens received a bribe. I mean, this is interesting because this is kind of old news, and the Trump administration, Justice Department under Trump, investigated this whole accusation in 2020 and came to the conclusion that there was no solid evidence that this has happened. They couldn't dismiss it, but they certainly didn't have enough evidence to pursue any kind of prosecution. The FBI, this document is part of the FBI, this document that says that there are these tapes. The tapes have not materialized. Nobody in the U.S. has copies of these tapes, has listened to these tapes, has conclusive evidence of this. But the Republicans are out to get the Bidens, and they're doing everything they can to try to do that. When Trump unleashed the Justice Department on them, it didn't get him very far. He didn't get the evidence he needed. But who knows? Do I think it's likely, unlikely that this actually happened? So I'm fairly convinced, as convinced as I think I could be, that Hunter Biden got positions both in Ukraine and in China because he's the son of who was the vice president of the United States and who might be one day president. So there's no question in my view that this happens. Again, the reason Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, got, $2 billion from the Saudis is because he's the son of Trump, and he did a lot for the Saudis while Trump was president. So this kind of stuff goes on all the time in politics. Do I think they got $5 million, suitcase of cash, wired into a Swiss bank account? I don't know. Is it impossible? No. Is it likely? Probably not. Probable? Yeah, it's probable. There's a positive probability it happened. But is it likely? Probably not. I think Joe Biden is probably smarter than that, but or more savvy than that. Smart is not actually something I want to associate with Biden, but probably savvy enough not to take literal money. But is there an exchange? I'll help you with this stuff, and you put my son on the board. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I often ask the question. Never get a response, really. Often ask the question, how is it the politicians go into office poor and come out of office rich, having produced nothing, created nothing, made nothing? Apollo, you asked exactly the same question yesterday and answered it. And the answer is some form of implicit corruption. Very few of them actually literally get suitcases full of cash or wired dollars into some Cayman Islands or Swiss bank account. But almost all of them get consulting gigs and speaking gigs, once they leave, or in some way, or their family members or whatever, in ways that are roundabout, in ways that are roundabout and get them, the money gets there. The money somehow lands up in their hands. Because, God, how many of these congressmen are wealthy who started out unwealthy, not wealthy, with nothing? Unbelievable. It looks like Republicans are really going after the Bidens. Grassley is 80-something-year-old, longtime senator, standing up there on the Senate floor and accusing the President of the United States of being bribed, accepting $5 million of bribery. That's quite an accusation. So we'll see how the story develops. It'll be particularly interesting if these tapes actually materialize. And if they do, the Bidens are in deep trouble. There's no question. So this is all Burisma, the Ukrainian company. All right, inflation. You probably heard yesterday. Inflation came in at a relatively low number. The CPI, consumer price inflation, that is this basket of goods that the federal government uses to measure, increased during the month of May by 0.1%. That is a very low rate. Which means that the annual increase from 12 months ago to today, to the end of May, was 4%. That is significantly below the highs that were achieved late last year of 9.1%. So it's less than half of what we achieved at the peak of the inflation pressure. Much of this is a consequence of energy prices declining, oil prices declining. They declined sharply during the month, and as a consequence, that drove it down. So what they call core consumer price inflation, that takes out food and energy, because food and energy are very volatile, that is still up 5.3% for the year, and was up 0.4% in the month. So a lot of prices that are not related directly to energy or to food are still rising at about 0.4% a month. The Fed wants to drive that down to between under 0.2% a month. So we'll see. So inflation is still there. Price inflation, consumer price inflation is still there. It's still significantly higher than what the Fed's target is, which is 2%. But it is coming down significantly, although the core inflation is fairly stable over the last 3 months at around 5.2, 5.3%. It is interesting. Rob on the chat mentions eggs, but it seems like greed has been sucked out of the economy, and particularly with regard to eggs. Eggs spiked up dramatically last year and earlier this year. And there was a lot of talk about greedflation, that egg producers were inflating because they wanted to make a lot of money, and they could, and they were just exploiting all of us, and they had this, quote, monopolistic power and just drove up prices. And Elizabeth Warren and many people supported her, coined this term of greedflation. Well, greedflation is gone. The opposite is happening. We're having, ultraflation, which is deflation, because the fact is that last month, egg prices fell at the steepest rate since 1951. They fell something like 20-something percent in just 1 month. So there we go. We continue to track greedflation and continue to give you the good news. Inflation is this tricky number because different goods go up and down at different prices. As I said, oil has gone down, eggs have gone down, other fruits and vegetables have actually gone up. But again, CPI tries to capture some kind of average, a core CPI, some kind of average. Those are still high, particularly the core, higher than what one would like, higher than 0, which is what I would like, higher than 2%, which is what the Fed would like. But it does suggest that the Federal Reserve today will not raise interest rates, that we're probably going into a period of the Fed pausing, holding back, and not raising interest. One other inflation number was reported today, which is the PPI, the Producer Price Index. These are prices at the producer level in the supply chain. Those prices actually fell in May by 0.3%. And on an annual basis, they went up 1.1% in the year ending in May. So again, looks like inflationary pressures in the various parts of the supply chain have been eliminated. If you believe in greed inflation, that means the end of greed. But if you, like me, believe that this is all caused by fiscal and monetary policy, by handing people money, well, the effect of the handouts is probably adjusted prices. There's probably still some adjustment to be made, but ultimately, unless there's some massive addition to the money supply produced by the Fed, we're probably heading towards lower inflation. The fact that the Fed is stopping raising interest rates suggests that they might just pull off what's called a soft landing. I've been calling for a recession for years now, and it hasn't happened, and I still think there's going to be a recession, but now I'm starting to think, I guess there's a possibility it won't happen. I don't exactly understand why, but the U.S. economy is just super resilient, and the barriers to actually shrinking and to actually having a recession are high given this resiliency, and in a certain sense, the U.S. economy is just humming forward. Good. I'd rather have it humming forward than a recession. We might avoid a recession. I'm not saying that's what will happen, but it might. All right, I'll remind everybody that we do use Super Chat to fund these episodes. These episodes come to you thanks to the live members who are on here, who participate in Super Chat and contribute to the show that way. Of course, those of you who contribute monthly are also helping make these shows possible, but those are the two sources of revenue for the show. There is no other, the monthly contributions and the Super Chat. I've set some goals for the Super Chat, 250 for the news shows and 650 for the evening shows. Meeting those goals is kind of setting the value for value trade where I need to be in order to make these profitable for me, and hopefully, if you're listening, profitable for you. So it becomes a win-win at that point. So I encourage you to use the Super Chat, both to support the show and to ask questions. Right now, we're about $200 short from our goal, so please consider stepping in, asking some questions. Maybe at the $20 level, we can get 10 questions at $20. We've reached our goal, and we're done. All right, let's see. Where are we? Yes, industrial heartland. When I say industrial heartland, what comes to mind? What do you think of? Well, almost everybody in America would think of the Midwest. They think of, Michigan, Wisconsin. They think of Illinois. They think of Ohio, right? This is the industrial heartland of America. This is where industrial plants, and we build stuff from cars to machines, to steel, to all of that stuff. This is industrial heartland. And yet, that has changed over the last 40 years. The industrial heartland of the United States has actually shifted. Today, in our world today, there is just as much manufacturing, heavy manufacturing that you associate with industrial in the American South as there is in the Midwest. So today, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, South Carolina, and of course Texas, that's where the action is. That's when industrialization is happening. Today there's many industrial workers in the South as they are in the Midwest. Starting in the 1980s, companies like Nissan, Toyota, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, all built plants in the Midwest. They did not go to Michigan, partially to avoid unions, and partially because the Midwest, still to this day, has relatively low energy costs, generally has low living costs, and has a significant amount of labor. Indeed, the biggest problem in the South today is a shortage of labor. What is super interesting about this is that Biden's projects, Biden has passed a number of big bills that involve huge, massive, multi-billion. By the way, thank you, Bjorn. We'll get to Bjorn in a minute, but he just took us way past our goal for today. But he has passed these bills that involve massive investments and massive subsidies for industrialized progress, whether it's EV batteries, electric cars, or whether it's solar panels, or whether it is chip manufacturing. And almost all those investments are going into the South. Now, some are going into the Midwest, but most of them are going to the South. Toyota is building this factory that is the size of 1,200 football stadiums, football fields. That's just the size of it. And they're building it in Kentucky, right? And it's going to produce EV batteries, right? All of these subsidized projects are going to the South. And what's interesting about that politically, if you think about Poke Barrel is where congressmen get the administration to hand over the pork to districts that support them. And here almost all the Poke Barrel is going to Republican districts, which is super interesting and probably not what Biden intended. But that is a fact. He didn't say to companies all over the world, if you build these factories, we'll give you subsidies only if you do it in democratic districts. Maybe you should have had that. But he said, if you build it, we will subsidize it. So they're building, and they're building all over the place. Chips, mostly Arizona. Land is cheap. Water might be a problem, but land is cheap. Energy is relatively cheap. And seismically stable, not like California. And close to California, where they need the tech and they can get people moving there with the skills. But electric cars, electric batteries, all of that, mostly Kentucky, Tennessee, south. They're south. Funnily enough, maybe funnily is not right. Ironically enough, guess why electricity is so cheap in those places? It's cheap because Kentucky, for example, produces 70% of electricity using coal that they dig right there, right? So a lot of these high-tech factories, EV and everything, who are supposed to be clean, actually using electricity produced by coal, not exactly goes consistently with how they're thinking. Anyway, here we are. And a lot of it has to do, a lot of the energy around the South has to do with where people are moving to. It's not as much about unions anymore because only 6% of America's private sector workers are unionized as of 2022. So unions are not a factor really much anywhere. But Texas has a lot of people moving into it. Georgia, Tennessee, Carolinas are major magnets of people moving there, not just retirees, but working age people. And if anything, there is a shortage of labor in all these places in spite of people moving to them. But if they open up something in the Midwest, those are states that are shrinking and the labor shortages are much larger. So I just thought it was interesting. Industrial heartland, no longer the Midwest, but the South. All right, finally, you've probably all heard about the collapse of I-95 in Philadelphia, where a truck underneath the highway burnt. It basically caused the rebar in the concrete in the highway above it to not melt, just like with the World Trade Center. The rebar doesn't have to melt, but what it does is it weakens it. It weakened it to a point where the concrete collapsed. The concrete buckled down. It collapsed. Highway 95 is closed, both going north and south in that section. It's going to take months to fix. This is not easy. And this is highlighted now because what's going to happen? They're going to have to reroute the traffic. Some of the traffic is going to have to go through a 40-mile-long detour along a mostly non-interstate roads that includes more than 60 traffic lights. And one of the realities, I talked about this on a show earlier in the year, is that I-95 carries massive quantities of trucks delivering goods south, north, north, south along the I-95, along the East Coast corridor. Goods that could easily, more efficiently, cheaper, and with less hassle to drivers, be moving along the shore in boats, in ships. They could be moving from Boston to Baltimore to Charleston down to Florida. And all of that could be delivered in container ships along the eastern coast. Instead, we deliver them by truck along I-95. That's why you get stuck in traffic jams. That's why this collapse of the highway is such a big deal, because it's the only way to get goods, north, south, south, north. So why is that? Why don't we use shipping? And this is a theme I've returned to many times, or a topic I've returned to many times. It's called the Jones Act. The Jones Act makes it impossible because the Jones Act requires the ship transporting goods between two U.S. ports must be American flagged, built, and the crew must be Americans. In all the world, there are only 70 ships like that. None of them, for example, are LNG ships that can carry natural gas. Very few of them are ships that can carry containers. There's plenty of container ships in the world, and it's very cheap to move ships using container ships. But there are very few American made, that is built, crewed, and flagged ships that contain those containers. The Jones Act makes everything we consume more expensive, particularly along the shores. The Jones Act makes it so that, in non-war times, Boston has to import natural gas from Russia instead of from Pennsylvania or Texas. The Jones Act is one of the most distortive laws we have in a book. It's easy, it's simple. It would take a quick act of Congress to get rid of it. And yet, we still have it. We still have it. Horrible, but there it is. What just happened? Let me see. Reload. You guys are still there, right? There's some database error. Keep trying. Whoops, all your super chats just disappeared. Not good, not good, not good. Error opening the database, unknown internal error. All right, let me close, open. Sorry, guys. I hate stuff like this happens. Yeah, it's, let me do one other thing. Yeah, okay, let me do this. First of all, let me just say, Reb Jones just put in 5,000 Norwegian Kroner, which is, I don't know, several hundred US dollars. He writes, "Hi, Yaron, since the Norwegian Kroner has tanked hard, I sold some of my global index funds and made a huge payment on my mortgage. The rest I save for you. If only more of my countrymen listened to you, they needn't even agree. Just listened and thinking would help a lot. The intellectual climate would improve by orders of magnitude." I agree completely. Thank you, Bjorn. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for the support over the last few years. Look forward to seeing you sometime in Norway. I hope I get to make it probably next year sometime. But thank you. That was very, very generous. Okay, let me do the questions I have access to quickly, because the reality is my Super Chat tracker just went and died on me, and I think the only way I can resurrect it is by by clearing cookies. Let's see if that helps. I don't know if that'll affect anything else that's going on, but let's see if that works. No, still getting that error. All right, I have a feeling I'd have to restart the browser, and that I cannot do. All right, so let's go. Brian has for $10, 3 cheers for Yaron. Here's some money. I rarely get to watch these live during the day, so I am celebrating the special occasion. Thank you, Brian. Really, really appreciate your support. Roland says, "Identify as a non-woman attracted to non-men." Wait a minute, I have to think about that. A non-woman, all right, attracted to non-men. Yeah, I can see that. Correction, he says, Roland says, "A non-woman non-repelled by non-men." Well, that's good. I'm glad you're not repelled by non-men. Yeah, I mean, the non-man thing is quite a joke. Frank says, "Can you say something about Silvio Burlesconi?" Yeah, I mean, Silvio Burlesconi, the billionaire businessman in Italy who served as prime minister for many years of Italian governments, really stood for nothing, I think is true. Kind of a nationalist, kind of a conservative, kind of stood for nothing, I think is accurate. Always accused of corruption, probably true. Italian politician, very, very likely. And I don't know that he, maybe some of you, if people who follow Italy more closely, can't really think of things that he did that were super positive. Italy is still a mess. Maybe he didn't do really, really negative things. Maybe that's his contribution to Italy is preventing the left from kind of destroying it. A kind of a populist. Fake smile, lots of buttocks and plastic surgery. Became a caricature of himself. Kind of sad when you look at him and you look at those frozen facial features. Died yesterday, I think, or the day before. Shahzad says, man's proper estate is an upright posture, an intransient mind, and a step that travels unlimited roads. Can you Google the term intransigent and tell us if Ayn Rand would agree with the definition? You want me to Google it right now, all right? Google intransigent. Intransigent. Unwilling or refusing to change one's views or to agree about something. No, I don't think she'd agree with that definition. Unwilling to change one's views. I mean, there's a sense in which that's true. Confident in his views, unswerving in his views, but always open to evidence. Intransigent is characterized by refusal to compromise. That's true. Or abandon an ever extreme position or attitude when there's no evidence to suggest one should abandon it. Uncompromising is pretty good. So the definitions are not bad, but they're trying to make it out as unreasonable, that is not open to evidence. And I think she would definitely say you're always open to evidence. But when you're certain, when you're confident, you're uncompromising. And that I think she would accept. Apollo says, have you done the review of un-ROM-Antics yet by Meghann Ribbens? He asked that yesterday, and my answer is no, but it is on my Kindle waiting for me to read and then to review it. Silvanos, thank you for the $10. Really appreciate it. Bree says, there are crop failures in corn and vineyards due to late frost. How can the Fed separate non-monetary cost increases like this from inflation? The most expensive wine comes from this, so stock up. I think what the Fed tries to do is try to look at core inflation, which excludes food, which fluctuates a lot, and energy. And then because it's an average, it's kind of over many, many, many goods. Some are going up in any particular month because of non-monetary phenomena. Some are going down because of non-monetary. And on average, the total basket it reflects or is intended to reflect the monetary effect. Michael, $50. Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate it. The boomer insult is directed at people of an older generation where finding a career and purchasing a home was a lot easier. And then out-of-touch boomers don't understand what the current young generation has to overcome when they criticize us. Well, I mean, a couple of things on that. One is people have thrown the boomer thing on me. They throw it with regard to dating. They throw it with regard to anything where they disagree. They just throw it out. So it's being tossed at me on all kinds of issues, not only with regard to purchasing a home. But even there, I just don't think it's right. Purchasing a home a year ago in certain parts of the country, outside of California and certain places that were super expensive, was easier than when I, as a boomer, was looking for a home because interest rates were so much lower. I mean, you could buy a home last year at an interest rate with a mortgage with an interest rate of like 3% or 3.5% and 3% really. And, the lowest interest rate I could find when I purchased my first home was like 8%. So immediately, even though homes are today more expensive than they were back then, but your monthly payments may be cheaper. So I'm not even sure it's finding a career in a home is harder today than it was back then. It's harder in the Bay Area. I don't have the app running twice, Miroslav. So, but yeah, it's still giving me the same thing. Still giving me the error opening it. But anyway, it's still doing that. I think if I shut down Chrome and then open it up again, we'll see what happens. It might work, and that'll guarantee that there's no second one running somewhere. So, again, yes, there are certain things that are more difficult today, no question. There's certain challenges that you face that we didn't face. But we were poorer. You're richer. You're making more money. I mean, average salaries, starting salaries today, adjusted for inflation, adjusted for everything, cost of living and everything, much higher today than for boomers. So I don't think there's that, that the criticism, even with regard to career and purchasing a home, is completely objective when really has to look deeply into it. Okay, Clark says, also $50, thank you. Can you have Michael Liebowitz on one of your Thursday interview shows? Fascinating how someone discovered Ayn Rand while serving a 25-year prison sentence, and his podcast is very good. I just listened to his interview with Harry Binswanger. I think he's trying to interview me. I think Angela, my assistant, is working with him on figuring a date, so I will be going on his podcast soon, and so I will be interviewed by him. So that should be that would be good. So thank you, Clark Young, for bringing him to my attention. But he has already contacted me about coming on his show, so I will probably be doing that in the weeks, months to come. Anonymous users say, gives me $2 because I'm her favorite boomer. So thank you, I appreciate that. All right, everybody, thank you. Really, really appreciate it. We blew through our goals today. Primarily, thank you. Primarily thanks to our Norwegian friend Bjorn, and then of course Michael and Clark. But thank you to all the super chatters. I really, really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow morning, so no show tonight, but we will be back tomorrow morning. And I don't know what's going on here. All right, we'll be back tomorrow morning and for another news roundup, and there'll also be a show tomorrow night. I don't think we've got an interview scheduled for tomorrow night, although it is a Thursday and it's supposed to be interview day, but we will see. All right, thanks again, everybody, and I will see you all tomorrow morning. Bye.